Hi, welcome to the next lesson in developing spatial thinking. Today we're going to be going over our first section in orthographic projections. So let's jump right in. An orthographic projection consists of three views: a top, front, and side view. It's important to note for future practice that the top view looks very similar to a coded plan, and that will come in handy when we're going from an orthographic projection to an isometric drawing later on. It's also important to note that each view is perceived as looking directly at the object with no indication of depth. The top view is essentially a bird's eye view if you were standing above the object and looking straight down. There's no indication of shading or anything that would resemble depth. And the same goes for the other two views, the front view and the side view. You can imagine that you're standing to the left of the object looking straight on, and there's no indication of depth. And the same thing goes for the right view, the side view. If you were to stand on the right side of the object and look on, there would be no indication of depth or shading, so you only rely on the lines that are there. It's very common that you'll see orthographic projections converted to and from isometric drawings. In practice and in real world, you'll see that quite often. So let's take a look at our first example. You can see in the isometric drawing at the top right that I've colored the top sides of every cube in blue, the left side of every cube in red, and the right side of every cube in green. And what that's supposed to resemble is the top, front, and side views in our isometric drawing. So you can take a look at the top view, that we've got two squares up in the top left of the top view, and then those four squares in the bottom right. And that indicates a change in depth, and that's the only indication that we have of depth. Again, there's no shading or any other utility that we can use to indicate depth. You can see in the front view that we've got the two cubes in the top right, which are too tall, and then three cubes on the bottom, which are only one stack tall. You can see how that translates to the isometric drawing, that in the bottom left of the object that we've got a row of three red cubes, and then on the top we've got the two tall stacks. Finally, on the side view, you can see that we've got three green cubes, two of which are on the bottom and they are at the same depth, and then the one on top is at a different depth. Something important to note is that our orthographic projections can still hide information. You remember, as we saw in the isometric drawings, that we can hide information if, for example, there's a taller wall in front of our view of the rest of the object. We can lose sight of some of those stacks of cubes. Something similar can happen with orthographic projections, and the way that we handle that is with the indication of a dashed line. So you can see in our example that I've done the same thing where I have the top sides of each cube marked in blue, the left side of each cube marked in red, and the right side of each cube I've left white, so it's easier to see our illustration of the side view. The top view and the front view should be no surprise. We've got a stack of two cubes off to the left in the top view, and then we've got a bit of an N shape marked out by the rest of the blue cubes. And the front is the exact same. We've got a bit of an L shape where the indication of the notch in the U shape is there in the bottom right of the front view. Finally, in the side view, we've got our indication of a dashed line. Now you can imagine if you were standing off to the right side of the object looking on, you wouldn't see the little cavity that exists in that U or N-shaped part of the object. So the way that we explain that and the way that we illustrate that in the side view is with a dashed line. Let's do our first example. So I'm going to change my ink color to blue. I'm going to color in the top sides of every cube. Then I'm going to change my color to red. I'm going to color in the left side of every cube with red. Finally, I'm going to change my color then to green. I'm going to color the right side of every cube in green. So hopefully that will help you envision what the top, front, and side views look. So I'll change it back to black, and we'll begin working on our top view. The top view generally is one of the easier views because, in fact, in the top view, the way that objects are constructed in these exercises, you'll never actually have a dashed line. So we can see that in our top view, we've got the top of this cube right here. That's kind of in this array of a 3x2 set of cubes. So I'm going to draw that 3x2 set of cubes. And in the top left, I'm going to draw that one cube that sticks out. Finally, I've got this last cube over here, and I can see that's kind of on the upper lip of that 2x3 stack of cubes. So I'll draw that right there. That's going to complete our top view. Now I'm going to take a look at the red sides of each cube, and we see it's somewhat similar to the blue. So we've got a 3x2 stack of cubes, so I'll draw that in here. Oh. Now we've got this cube, which is sticking out of that 2x3 set. So we'll draw that there. And finally we have this cube right here, which is jutting out of that 2x3 set, but on this side over here. Finally, let's construct the side view. Again, imagine that you're standing right here, and you're looking onto the object. We can see that we've got a set of 3 cubes right here, and then the one right here which sticks out. So we'll draw a 2x2 area, which represents kind of the bounding box of those 4 cubes. And then we'll draw on the bottom right there that cube that juts out. Finally, we need to compensate for this cube right here. So we'll draw that right above there. And that's going to complete our orthographic projection of this isometric drawing. Let's do one more example. Again, I'm going to change my ink color, pull up blue for the top, color the tops of the cubes. I'll change to green for the right side. And I'll change to red for the left side. Alright, I'll change back to black so we can begin our orthographic projection. So, again, I'm going to take a look at this kind of L shape of blue cubes, as well as this one cube which sticks out way taller. So I'm going to draw my L right here. I can see that that L is about 3 cubes long. And then to illustrate that really tall stack, I'm going to draw kind of in the pocket of that L. And that's going to complete our top view. Now let's begin the front view. We're going to compensate for these 2 cubes and these 2 cubes right here. And that actually forms an L shape as well. So I'll draw that L shape right here. And to indicate the difference in depth of these 2 pairs of cubes, I'll draw a line right here. So you can imagine that these 2 cubes right here are a little bit closer than these 2 cubes, and that's consistent with what we see here. We see that these 2 cubes here are closer than these 2 cubes right here. Finally, we're going to do the side view. So we've got 2 green cubes right here, and we've got 3 green cubes right here. So I'll draw the 3 green cubes on the bottom. And I'll draw the 2 green cubes on top. Now, we're not quite done yet, because it's important to note that in the back here, this tower keeps coming down, and it hits the floor. And we need to indicate that edge in the side view, because that's hidden information. We want to make sure that there's no stack of cubes there. So what we're going to do is we're going to draw a dashed line here in the side view. And that will complete our side view of the object. Alright, that completes this module. Be sure you complete the homework for this module before you move on to the next one. In the next module, we'll be dealing with going from an orthographic projection, these 3 views, to an isometric drawing. So look forward to that.